Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Marcel with IrnieracingNews, the Canadian.Journalist, reporting on December 19th, again in the morning around 11:30 a.m. And we're looking at Petition E4701. We want to oust the Trudeau and his NDP liberal totalitarian coalition. And so yesterday around this time, we had 348,535 signatures. So I'm like, okay, we're going to hit the 350,000 threshold maybe later today or tomorrow. Well, I got good news, guys, because let's just go over to my refreshed one. So here we have 348,530, boom. And when I refreshed a few minutes ago, 356,306, which is an increase of 7,771 signatures overnight. Congratulations, everybody. Your guys sharing the petition, telling your friends about the petition. They get on and they search for it. They maybe found the videos that we're watching right now, and we've got 7,700 people signing the petition in one night, in one 24-hour period. That is fantastic. I wanted to show you when you do when you put in it, they want your name, your first and last name. They want your email, your phone number, and your postal code, right? And when you type all that in and hit the button, it says one last step required. You will receive an email to validate your identity. You must click the link provided in order to complete the signature process. So then in your email, it takes like a couple minutes. It'll show up in your email. And boom, you click the email link, and then it's going to say, take you back here. Congratulations, you have completed the signature process for this petition. Okay, so make sure you get on that. When searching for information on the petitions on, say, Brave's search engine, here you have, I just typed in Canada Petition E4701. And here is the petition, here's the petition, here is a story by the National Post. So this is the first one that pops up. However, this one's from December 4th. So what I'm saying is nobody's doing new news on this petition now in mainstream media now that it's gotten some real amount of signatures. Hit the 300 threshold, making it the record, the biggest signed House of Commons petition in Canadian history, right? But nobody's talking about that in mainstream media. The petition, which calls for a snap election, has garnered more than 174,000 signatures in the 10 days since it was started on November 24th. So that's quick in the first 174,000 in 10 days. So that's more than 10,000 a day. So it's slowing down right now, but it's 7,700 still pretty good. Let's move on back to the search engine. And we scroll down, and then you have some Reddit discussions and the European conservatives. Now, this one was done on December 1st, and they actually go into the reasonings that were included in the petition. So I'm going to read you this. 100,000 Canadians signed the petition to remove Trudeau. Canadians want an end to the era of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, according to an increasing number of polls and a recent petition calling for a vote of non-confidence against the minority government in the Canadian House of Commons. Let's make this a little bigger for us hard to read folks. Signed by over 129,000 on December 1st. This E4701 is sponsored by Conservative MP, represents the riding, okay. If one would see a snap federal election within 45 days. The petition states the policies of this government aren't aligning with the crisis Canada is facing. Housing costs, infringement of civil liberties, highest inflation in history, unbalanced immigration policies, taxation to the point of poverty, weakening of the economy by importing natural resources that Canada already has and underutilizes, number 6. And based on the past 8 years of the Prime Minister, Canadians do not have confidence in the PM after 5 ethics investigations, which can never be proven because Trudeau will never have himself investigated, and Canada's reputation for being tarnished. Yes. So the points made in this petition are not without merit, as Canada has seen a massive housing crisis under Justin Trudeau, and the average house price has skyrocketed. We've all witnessed this. In Kelowna, BC, it's very, very obvious, and all the big cities, Ontario, etc. It's literally impossible for a young fellow like myself, young old fellow like myself even, to buy a house. When a house costs $2 million, $2 fake million. This is not real money. People just keep grabbing at that teat of borrowing fake money and perpetuate the situation further that was created by the Prime Minister. And the number of new homes being built has also been minuscule compared to the huge number of immigrants led into the country by Trudeau. With Canada's population growing by a record 1 million people last year, almost all of the growth being driven by mass migration. According to Statistics Canada, immigrants make up the largest share of the Canadian population in over 150 years, consisting of nearly a quarter of the entire population. And so we've seen video of this before in France, where essentially when immigrants take to the streets, they created huge chaos in France, burning buildings, burning cars, injuring people, killing people. So when the immigrants who have no threshold of being Canadian for much length of time, and illegal immigrants just pouring in through that Quebec border, right, uncontrolled thanks to Trudeau, if they essentially turn on the heart of Canada, you have a civil war, and this is what's happened in France. We've seen the protest videos. The country of Canada is only 156 years old, being founded in 1867. So now nearly a quarter of the population is people just running over the border. A poll released this week, and immigration is fine, but controlled immigration. You must vet everybody and have reason for them to come here to add to society. They have jobs to fulfill, they have education. They're not just going to be unemployed, sucking at the government teat. And then when that teat runs out, they go into anarchy, and that's when they can start the New World Order, and all the land becomes very affordable, just like in Hawaii and Maui, and you can buy back all the land that's been burnt by fires or been destroyed, or essentially the Dutch farmers, we're going to buy all your land now, so thank you very much. We're going to force your land sales. A poll released this week showed that 3/4 of Canadians blame mass migration for making the housing crisis worse, and Trudeau's Liberal Party intends to further increase the number of permanent residents from 437,000 in 2022 to at least 500,000 by 2025. Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, which is CMHC, released a report in 2022 claiming that Canada would need to build 3.5 million additional units of housing by 2030 to get costs down. But according to real estate banker Greg Khalil, it is unlikely the country can accomplish the task by even 2040, and it would require investment of $2 trillion. Yes, trillion, guys, trillion. Like, these numbers are unheard of. The most money spent in the world is the $15 trillion on the military-industrial complex. That is the biggest business in the world. It is the people making money off of war, the civilians dying, world domination control. Inflation has, and what do you think is happening in Ukraine? The proxy war of the U.S. through Ukraine. All the Ukrainian men and now women are dying, if not already dead, to attack Russia, who is one of the only sovereign nations not to enter this big banking control by the bankers, the elitists. They have their own money, they have their own cars, they have their own gold, they have their own supply, and now the BRICS is slowly beating up and having their own system of trade. BRICS, it's growing and growing. It started with, BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and, now Saudi Arabia, and everybody's joining it. Even the people in NATO are like, what was it? The French Prime Minister Macron was trying to attend the BRICS meetings. Like, I see us failing, and I want to make sure I have a back channel. Inflation has also surged under Trudeau since the end of the COVID-19 in 2022. Yes, pandemonia. With inflation impacting Canadians so much that the number of people using food banks has soared to record levels. We're talking about COVIDism. In Canada's most populous province, Ontario, an estimated 800,000 people used food banks between April of 2022 and March of 2023. 800,000, up to 38% from the previous year, the largest increase ever recorded. Good job, Trudeau and Freeland, destroying our country on purpose. They're doing this on purpose. They are the WEF, guys. Canada WEF. How can they attend the WEF and pretend to represent Canadians? It's amazing that they're not just thrown out, completely thrown out of Canada. Or things like worse. Nearly 1 in 5 households in Ontario struggle to put food on the table, affecting roughly around 2.8 million people, around 2.7 million households, or 6.9 million Canadians across the country are termed as food insecure. On top of the housing crisis and inflation, the Trudeau government has enacted carbon taxes that even further increase the cost of living, and the taxes become deeply unpopular with Canadians. Yeah, because it hits our pocketbook every single day. Every time you get fuel, every time you need to heat your home, every time you need to turn the fireplace on, you're like, this is going to cost 2 times as much as it did last year, or the year before that. A poll released earlier this month revealed that the majority of Canadians want the carbon tax scrapped or at least postponed for up to 3 years to offset living costs, while just 15% agree with the plan to further increase the tax next year. You know, what's hilarious is Trudeau's like, it's a tax. Not only is inflation the biggest tax there is, because then your purchasing power drops more than half. It's a giant huge tax. But on top of that giant tax, impossible tax, he's got the carbon tax increasing every year, with the promise that the carbon tax is going to reduce Canada's impact on the environment. And yet, what has he accomplished? Not one thing has been accomplished in his agenda of the carbon tax. Despite the growing problems, along with the litany of scandals that have plagued Trudeau's premiership, from corruption allegations to past photos of him donning blackface so many times he cannot recall them all, it is unlikely the confidence motion will pass in Parliament. James Carafeno of the Heritage Foundation stated, "The prospects for a successful and no confidence vote are near zero," citing the agreement between Trudeau's Liberals and the far left Democrats. This is great. This European Conservative, this is one of the best articles I've read in a while, because they are the extreme far left. And when they always call like these far right guys in the Netherlands or in Germany with their parties about the farmers' protest, they're not the extreme right. They're the center. It's just common sense. Common sense is center, right? Common sense is the center. And if you're outside of common sense on the right or the left, then you become far left, far right, extreme left, extreme right. Whoa, watch the coffee. Carafano stated, "You cannot force a no confidence vote by petition, no matter how many voters sign it." Yes, we understand that, but the point is being made. When we have 500,000, maybe 1 million people will sign this, and then we'll go over the percentages of the voting population, and we'll be at 10-15% of people signing a petition that nobody thinks will do anything. That's pretty big. The only votes that count are of those MPs, and as long as the Prime Minister Trudeau's Liberals have confidence in supply agreement with the NDP, the new demo-ass party, he can survive any confidence vote. Yes, I understand this. You guys probably understand this, but when they see that there's 1 million Canadians signing this voluntary no confidence, and people are scared to sign it too. Don't be scared, guys. Stand up for your country. Don't be a little bitch. This is a stunt to embarrass the Liberals and the NDP without any prospect of success. The success is demonstrating that we have 500,000 or 1 million Canadians willing to sign this. You guys are the what do they call it? Oh man, my mind is scared. What did Trudeau call us again? The fringe. Thank you, doctor. 1 million fringe have signed the petition. You guys are the ones that are in the trucks, driving across Canada, the fringe that all you have to do is go online and sign this damn petition. Show yourself as support the fringe, the large fringe minority. If by chance a confidence motion did bring down the Trudeau government, polls indicate that the Conservative Party, CPC, would win a snap election in the landslide, easily winning the majority of the seats in House of Commons. Yes, we all know that the Conservatives, Pierre Poilievre, has a huge lead. I personally am always voting for somebody who has ethics and who has morals and puts his agenda on paper, and it does not change by the voters, like who's going to vote for what. No, and that's Maxime Bernier with the PPC. He has his party platform. You go on the PPC's website, the platform is on every category. It has not changed in the last 5 years. He doesn't change his principles to appease each little voters at the time. There's no opinion polls. The platform is the platform, which is common sense. Common sense on using our own oil, common sense on building certain pipelines, common sense on immigration limits, common sense on educating our children, common sense on stopping indoctrinations, common sense on pull yourself out of the WAF, pull yourself out of the UN, you know, the Paris Treaty. Like, none of this, we do not go along with your globalists, your bankers, your banker. Ugh. A Nanos research poll released on November 24th put the Tories at 41%, while Trudeau's Liberals are now tied with the NDP at 22%, with an election outcome model to put the Tories at 96% chance of winning a majority. Let's turn those PPC up too, guys. I mean, Pierre Poilievre, he showed his true colors. He attends to voters on a day-by-day basis. His policies change based on trying to get people to like him. He badmouthed Christine Anderson, who is one of the best, biggest, and most well-known speaking European Parliament member, freedom fighter of the world. Christine Anderson, she stands for common sense morals on immigration, etc. She has all these people calling her racist because she stands up for common sense, when really everyone who calls somebody racist they're just trying to shut up the conversation. We all know that strategy. Call somebody a racist, an anti-Semite, just to end the conversation. They don't want to have debate. Christine Anderson was attacked by Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre, he'll do whatever he needs to do at the time when he thinks the majority of people will agree with him, right? Even if it's wrong. March 5th, 2023, I just came across Pierre Poilievre's response to Christine Anderson, essentially a response to his text message from his administration stating Christine Anderson is vile and racist. And here is this is his only video response. Let's watch together.
Now, recently, two local Conservative MPs met with a German politician with extreme views, Nazi views as well. How did that meeting even happen, and what was the conversation like with the MPs afterwards that you had with them?
Well, I disagree with...
Let's stop him right there. I don't know who this host is, but he's calling Christine Anderson has Nazi views. What a defamation. What a slander right off the bat to start the conversation. Well, that's not very good to start. And let's see Pierre's response. I bet he's going to deflect and try not to talk about it too much.
Nazi views as well.
Well, I disagree with this politician, and I said so, and because I believe in freedom for everyone, and that includes immigrants and minorities. And I speak out against racism of all types, so especially the hideous and ugly racism of Justin Trudeau, who dressed up in racist costumes so many times. He says he can't remember them all, who gave taxpayer money to anti-Semitic and racist organizations under the pretext of fighting racism. So we really have to get, we really have to get the truth from Justin Trudeau on how many times he wore these racist outfits.
But what does it say, what does it say about your MPs who would meet with somebody like this?
Well, I mean, they've said that they weren't aware of all of her views.
Your political party, the Alternative for Germany, has comments on the Holocaust.
What we have seen in the last 3 years in particular, there have been so many parallels to what happened as the Nazis came to power. And if you point out those parallels, then you're automatically being accused of being a Holocaust denier or trivializing the Holocaust. But the question really is this: if you vow never again, then you need to know the mechanisms and you need to know the steps that they took back then to come to power and to rise to power. And if you fail to recognize those signs, well, guess what? You will find yourself in the very same situation again. So for God's sakes, how can it be trivializing of the Holocaust in pointing out what made it all possible? Because if there's one question that the younger generation asked their grandparents back then, how was this possible? They were just astonished at how these atrocities committed by the Nazis were even possible. And I will tell you right now, take a look at what happened the last 3 years. That's exactly how it was possible.
Bam! How was this possible? How did the world wars start? How did the Nazis slowly come to power? Christine hit it on the head when Pierre Poilievre is clearly a sucker-upper to mainstream media. So Canadians were in a tough position. We need to oust Trudeau and the NDP and coalition. Yet we still have the next best thing, who's really popular, Pierre Poilievre, who doesn't really have, morals or principles. He doesn't say his principles. He will always change his principles. He didn't stand up for the truckers. He didn't stand up against the totalitarian ways of the government during the lockdowns. He didn't stand up to the evil jabs. He didn't protect Canadians until eventually the Freedom Convoy is getting really popular and the fringe minority is huge, that he starts, then, I'll go walk with James Topp for the last mile, right? Anyways, let's go back to the original story on what we're dealing with right now. The problem for the opposition leader, Pierre, however, is that the next Canadian election is not scheduled until 2025, an incredibly long time in politics. Wow. So Chris Tomlinson, a British Canadian journalist for the European Conservative, he's focused on migration, the European politics, far-left extremism, Islamic terrorism. Formerly, he covered stories. So this is the guy that wrote this thing for the European Conservative. So, wow. Thanks, Chris. Good job on the story. Because when you go back here, 3 weeks ago, there is nothing new about the petition. So, guys, here we are, 356-303. Since I've been recording this video for 20 minutes, 306 to 448. So, yeah. An increase of what? 130? I don't care. We got a lot. 336 to 448. Math is not my strong suit. Let's get on there and sign the petition, guys. Irnieracing News. Thanks for watching. It is, again, December 19th. It's 11:52 a.m. as I report this. Cheers. And of course, we have the breakdown. The differences is of Alberta from 83,069 to 84,800. British Columbia was 55,700 to 57,000 now. Manitoba was 12,900 to 13,000, not as much. New Brunswick 6,700 to 6,900. And Newfoundland and Labrador almost 3,500 to not too many, 70, 80 votes. Northwest Territories 347. Nova Scotia 9,069 to, so we got almost 200 there for Nova Scotia. None of it, 103 to 107. Okay, here's a big one, 140,000 for Ontario to 143,000. 3,000 people voted in Ontario. Good job, Ontario. Awesome work. And then Prince PI 1234 and 1251. And now Quebec, guys, the one we've all been wondering for. It was 17,874 to 18. So yeah, an increase of some hundreds there. Saskatchewan 16.5 from 16.1. Okay, so I kept the, and then there's of course there's the other petition, guys, which was another important one. You know, just as important. It's talking about ousting the UN and the WHO and their globalism, their one world government, from having Canada involved whatsoever. And so right now it's at 58,847. Let me refresh that again. Oh, 60,081. So it jumped up. Jumped up a couple thousand there, so going along. So make sure you get onto that petition as well. If you, again, it's the Foreign Affairs E4623.